Yes, that's it. I gotta get organized here a little bit.
I know I had to put my chair.
This is like, I need something. I need a footstool. I need.
I did do mine.
Yeah. Call the meeting to order, 5:01. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Hoyer?
Here.
Councilman Gibson?
President.
Councilman Ford?
Councilwoman Ford.
Councilwoman, I'm sorry, my bad.
That's okay.
Councilman Saha?
Here.
And Councilwoman Laporte?
Here.
And Mayor Pro Tem?
Here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, approval agenda with additions or deletions. I do know we have another presentation
Correct.
from
Lisa? Yeah.
from Region 7.
Yes.
And we need to add to new business a letter G for the acceptance of the resignation of Yvonne Broderick, our clerk.
I would like to also add to the agenda H and I. H being why was she put on administrative leave, and I being how are we going to replace the vacant positions? Are we going to advertise it?
Oh, give me a second here. Public comments on the agenda item. Oh,
We need a motion and second and discussion on the approval of the agenda.
oh, that's right. Sorry.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Let's work.
We have a motion and support to approve of the agenda. Huh?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Go ahead. Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Perfect. Public comment on the agenda items. Anybody have any public comment?
I would. Good afternoon. My name is Craig Barn. I'm the editor and publisher of the Pinconning Journal. 110 East 3rd Street. We are the oldest continuously operating business in the city of Pinconning. May I approach the council and pass out a handout?
Sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
What you have there is my business card. Has the correct spelling of my name. I'd ask that if council members wish to make formal accusations against me in the future, that you please have the common courtesy to spell my name correctly. If you lose the card, it's on page 2 of the paper every week. I note on the agenda, item A, under new business, placed there by Councilman Gibson, states, why is Craig Brandt, B-R-A-N-T, at City Hall multiple times and for long periods of time? Since I can find no record of anyone in the community by that name, I can only assume that it is I that Mr. Gibson is referring to. Mr. Gibson may operate under the perception that he has the right to control every action of every city employee, but to extend that to members of the community smacks of a presumption of power held only by megalomaniac kings and tin pot dictators. Unless Mr. Gibson has either x-ray vision, worthy of Superman, or has me under surveillance, I question his ability to account for my time. When defending himself against another stalking charge at last month's council meeting, Mr. Gibson stated that he could see what cars were at City Hall from his house, presumably his registered address on Manitou Street and not the Erickson Road address where he spends most of his time. I'd ask that which of the 7 licensed and registered vehicles that my wife and I own he's keeping track of. My office is a casual 5-minute walk from City Hall, 3 minutes if you're in a hurry. When the weather's good, I often walk to and from City Hall. As there have been other statements on the record about Mr. Gibson following people and investigating on his own presumed authority, his following me is not completely out of the question. Mr. Gibson himself made the following statement at, I believe, the June 2018 council meeting when he was chair of the Parks and Recreation Committee. He said, "I was patrolling the park when I saw 3 boys enter the restroom. They were in there longer than I thought they should be, so I went in to see what they were doing." There have been hours of discussion by this council on potential liability to the city from a dog that could bite someone, but apparently there was never any thought about an elected city official following 3 boys into a restroom to see what they were doing. I strongly caution the council to consider the implications of Mr. Gibson's statement. Now, it may be outside Mr. Gibson's range of experience, but a casual, friendly conversation is the preferred method of communication for most people. For the record, other than these drawn-out council meetings with a lot of bickering and not a lot of work, I don't believe I've ever been inside this building for more than an hour at a time. Unlike Mr. Gibson, I have a full-time job, and that is to inform the residents of Pinconning and the surrounding area of what's going on locally. In order to do that, I have to do research. That often consists of asking questions of government officials, filing Freedom of Information Act requests, and verifying facts that bring me to City Hall. I also have 16 years of municipal government experience, which is more than your entire administrative staff combined. I have in the past and will continue to offer advice and assistance whenever requested by city staff. I'll do this as a member of this community who actively works to see it succeed as a whole. If you wish to stalk me, prepare yourself for extreme boredom. But I think your time would be better spent educating yourself on the realities of the city's financial condition rather than imagining conspiracies behind every tree. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments, public comments on the agenda items?
Do I have the right to address that?
I know you can't interrupt when they're talking.
You always caution that council should not respond to that comment, but it is his free will if he so chooses.
What?
Thanks for your comments. A lot of things you state are not factual, but that's okay. I will say, in your writing, in your journal, you've been one-sided continuously. You've been after Councilman Gibson ever since the beginning of the year. For what reason, I do not know. And I would like you to print all this in the paper, exactly how I'm stating it. My first time I ever met you, I went to the Journal to do some research about Wilson's Cheese Shop and the owners and how it began in the beginning. Because we wanted to present the family with a plaque for the soccer field and the land that was donated. You know how first time when you meet somebody, you either know there's going to be a connection there that you're going to get along, or you're not? First impressions? Well, I felt at that time, Mr. Burnett, however you say your name, was against me right from there. And he has wrote negative things, false things about me ever since. I will say, and I was going to wait till the end of the meeting, but it needs to be addressed now. As a journal writer of the city of Pinconning, it's a disgrace how you write. Being you said on the Chamber of Commerce, you said in the Rotary Club. Your negativity to the city and to the surrounding townships is a big disgrace. You should be promoting this city and the surrounding townships, not putting your own opinions in that have came to be not true by our attorney. So, for the record, you've never came, as far as I know, to one of these councils people to get their opinion on things. Have you ever addressed any of us? No. Just what you think and what you write and what you hear. That's sad as a reporter, not to get the other side. There's pros and cons to everything. And you're a one-sided writer. So put that in your paper so the residents can see it. Because your fear-mongering is a big danger to this city and the surrounding townships. And I will defend myself on everything you just stated there. So, bring it on. And we'll see who wins. I am doing nothing wrong other than to trying to move this city in a positive and forward manner. And if you think I'm stalking people, you're wrong. I'm retired. I've been retired for 10 years. I ride around a lot. That's what I do. So if you think I'm following people, stalking people, no. And when you comment that you've only been here maybe at an hour at a time, maybe that's true. But when I sit at my building just down the street there, and I see your vehicle parked here 5 to 6 hours in one day, or you just left it parked here? Maybe so. I don't know. I don't come into City Hall to see you if you're here. And the other thing is you do not belong behind the glass of that entrance. No one belongs behind that glass except the workers, administration,
Gerald, you get 45 seconds.
and council. Otherwise, unless they're invited. And I will state for the record and write it down. You was here the day Yvonne emailed our packet. Why was you, when she's emailing the packet, where was you that day? In her office with her? Confidential stuff
It's
to
not.
this council.
Gerald, that's it. Time's up. Any more public comments? Correspondence.
Oh, I do have one more public comment, please. I would like to show of hands of all the residents of Pinconning here.
City of Pinconning.
City of Pinconning. We'll take a count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 people.
Well, we have to be.
10 people out of, how many's here?
A lot.
10 city residents. You're all welcome to our public meetings. Anybody can show. But it's funny how you show up. You have nothing better to do on a Monday evening?
Okay, Gerald.
Hold on.
Okay, who else? Okay.
Now you open it up.
Can I just say,
Go ahead.
I work in the city of Pinconning, right next door at the Head Start, and I came today to hear what is going to be happening in the city that I work in, the city that I used to live in. So, yeah, I do have better things to do on a Monday evening, but I want to make sure I know what's going on in the city where I work.
I don't blame you.
I have a comment. I'm Vern Little. And I want to address you people as there's free things online for emotional intelligence so you can better conduct yourselves in a higher position when you're talking to a group of people. You might want to look into that. Because sitting as a member of a council, the way you just talked to that man and to the group of people is disgusting.
I came tonight, and I'm going to tell you all right now that Councilwoman Coyer is my sister, just so you know. I come from Bay City, I spoke at the last meeting, and I was accused of coming here last meeting and spreading rumors and lies. You all have a copy, I'm sure of it by now, of the lawsuit that was filed that I was referring to at the last meeting. So now it's out there that you have, well, it's not hard to get, I promise. I will send it to you. But now it's out there on your moratorium that really didn't work, that council people have relatives from other cities coming, spreading lies and rumors. There was no lie or rumor spread at the last meeting, not at all. So that's why some of us come from other areas, because your town's wrecked. And there's only a few real problems, and I hope these 10 residents that are here can figure it out real soon.
Any more public comment? Yeah, agenda items, yeah. Correspondence. In our packet, we have correspondence letter from David Rosella. It's our partner of Quest Jake and Company. We have letters in there from, let's see my glasses. Elaine, Ellen, Charlotte Pinconning, Linwood Area Chamber of Commerce. We have Chris in the audience here, a letter of intent for council position. We have a city attorney letter, operations of the Northern Bay Ambulance and Special Assessment District. We have a letter from the State of Michigan Department of Treasury, and we have a letter from Bay County Department of Water and Sewer. Phew, that's a list. Moving on. Presentations. Does it matter which one goes first? Who would prefer to go first? Mr. Guazzella or Region 7?
She doesn't care.
Oh, okay, no, that's fine, and you're fine.
We know each other too, so.
Yeah, I didn't know if you guys had a preference.
Yep. But I do have another meeting, as I told Brian. Brian reached out to me and asked me to be at this meeting, so, and I've had telephone calls with Dawn, so let me just throw out some general comments for you. First of all, the letter that was received was in response to, of course, my knowledge of council reaching out and potentially changing auditors, which is your prerogative. The intent of the letter was more from a timing standpoint, not that we as a firm wanted to get rid of the city of Pinconning, but time is of the essence and our schedule has been out there for quite some time. So similar to what you went through last year, where you had engaged another firm to help you with some of your financial resources, we waited on that firm for a long time to straighten out some of the balances and some of the accounting issues that were in place, which were never resolved. So we were behind on last year's audit. And again, my fear was that we were going to be behind if we brought in another firm to do it. So, you know, our response was, okay, just let the state go ahead and do the audit. So I need council to understand, I have no hard feelings or anything, just time is of the essence to get the report done. So
we made the assumption, and Dawn reached out, that you were going to investigate that, so that was the intent of that letter. Another item I wanted to share, which I don't know if Brian shared any of this information, was your balances over the last few years. You have a copy, right? Misconception maybe, for those, when I was here to assist on the budget process for the upcoming year, just where the finances were, and again, had a terrible year last year as far as what the deficit was, but remember that was a deficit for the current operating period for the year-end 6/30/18. So this schedule kind of shows you where you're at with the general fund and the water and sewer. Just keep in mind that the state deficit reduction plan is based on your overall fund balance. So you had a bad year last year, but your fund balance in the general fund is still a positive number. Until that goes negative, that's when the crisis kind of hits as far as a deficit reduction plan that you have to have out there and submit that to the state. Where you did have that in water sewer, as you can see on the schedule, I had to go all the way back to 2009, but that's when it first hit. Part of that plan is, you know, are you going to increase your rates? Are you going to do other items out there? But as bad as last year was as far as the deficit situation, overall fund balance in the general fund is still positive. And so from a budgeting standpoint, keep that in mind, that you can budget a portion of your fund balance so your revenues can be less than what your expected expenditures are in a current period, as long as you don't drive fund balance to a negative position. That being said, last year and the last 3 years, as you can see on the schedule, you've had losses in the general fund. And that's kind of the concern on the budgeting process. Why Brian has reached out, and you know, long-term vision can't continue at that pace. Otherwise, you're going to be broke. And some of his concerns as far as you know, the budgeting process and what you're going to do. But the overall financial fund balance for the general fund is still positive. There were a number of findings in the audit from last year. Any questions on those, on anything that we did?
Well, Dave, just so the audience knows what we're talking about as far as deficits. Of course, this past fiscal year hasn't been audited yet, so we have no idea where we're at in a deficit situation or a surplus. But if you go back to the year ending 2016, where the deficits are now consistent moving forward to the current date, you know, we amassed $182,000 worth of deficit spending in our general fund. That cannot go on no matter what your fund balance is, and I'm telling you folks that out here, that's what we're dealing with. Last year, $137,000 in deficit spending in the general fund. If we have $475,000 left in our fund balance that is unallocated, we have 3 to 4 years left at this rate of getting to that point of no return where we have no fund balance. So this is my concern, and it should be a concern to every resident in the city, that either we're mismanaging these things or we got to get our books in order. And that's where I'm at on this council. And this is where my points of bringing this stuff up as much as I can, that you cannot go on forever like this. I've run a business for 32, 35 years, and if I were in this situation the past 4 years, I would be out of business. And it just cannot go on like this. Whether that's our fault as a council, to a point it is, but we have to have accurate reporting too. And I don't think, in my opinion, we're still getting that. We get our reports, but are they reconciled to our bank statements? No, they're not. And that's not an accurate report of the actual cash position of the city at this point. And once again, we don't even know what went on last year. So hopefully it's a surplus. But it is dire, in my opinion. And I just want to open everybody's eyes out here, that if we look at other ways of trying to get a surplus in the city, there's only two ways to do it. Either you gotta increase taxes, increase revenues to cover this, or you gotta reduce services. So that's where we're gonna be at making some hard decisions in the next year or two, depending on what goes on in this next audit. That there's some action that's gotta be taken by us sitting up here, and they probably won't be popular things, but do I want to be sitting in a city that's bankrupt? No. I'm here for life. I was born and raised here. I had 5 years that I didn't live here. I've been in business in this town for 32 years. So I have a high stake here, and I'm gonna live and die here. I'll be buried out here in the cemetery. So I don't live elsewhere. My intention and my stake in the city is true. It's true right here in my heart. And that's why I sit here. But we just gotta take this financial situation very seriously. And it's gonna unpopular position in what we have to do. And that's why I want to open everybody's eyes here and, ask Dave to make some comments on it. We had made the motion to ask the state to come in and do a financial review of the city. We can get into that later, but that maybe have more teeth into it as far as creating more awareness and creating different scenarios on how to correct our position, and maybe point out different things that are being recorded and done wrong in the city. So that was the intention of that motion at the last meeting, at least in my head. So,
Dave, historically, those deficits have been because general fund has had to subsidize wastewater, correct? And water, because for quite a few years, rates were never raised.
Couple of combinations on things that had to be done, and council, one, I want to point out that, your job as far as making those decisions on the cuts that are coming out, I think that you're, Brian, you have long-term vision here, and I think that's what you need. It's not a popular decision on what services you may have to cut if you don't have the revenues for it, but you're right that for the most recent history, having deficits in the general fund, that's an issue or problem. But related to your question, Don, yes, general fund has had to subsidize water and sewer. Also keep in mind that you have a Department of Agricultural requirement to fund and put money aside that you can't spend. So you're setting out money there that goes into a bond reserve account that is not spendable either. That's been a problem and an issue, unfortunately a requirement of your bond. But
any more questions?
I have a question. Dave, in just your opinion, would it be wise for the city to contract out our Treasury Department end of it?
well,
And I don't know if that's fair to ask you that, but it's a thought of council to contract it instead of having it in-house.
The last few years for the audit has been a challenge because of the work that we had to do to assist to correct some of the things in it. Remember how much turnover that you've had, going all the way back to Andrew, who was here, who brought in Wylanders to kind of help you guys, which personally I don't think that was I don't think they accomplished anything, not to badmouth them, but maybe a little bit more focus on where you want to go and what you want to do. Someone still needs to have the responsibility and understanding, so contracting it out, potential solution for you. I think one of the dilemmas that you're facing is just the limited amount of staff that you have. So, Dawn is our go-to answer person, and she's wearing an awful lot of hats, at least the last time that we dealt with her, and currently still wearing a lot of hats. So.
And after during our last audit, you recommended an individual to us to be able to do that, and I brought it to the mayor, who never brought it to council. And I know Brian brought it up at a meeting once too,